Alrighty, it's time for another 6.5 Creedmoor video. So I noticed the other day I haven't really shot the 140 grain bowtail hollow point from Hornady, so that's what we're going to shoot today. We're going to use Hogdgon Superformance, again the 140 grain bowtail hollow point from Hornady, and Winchester large rifle primers. We're going to continue with our Nosler large rifle primer brass. This is new brass. We're going to start at 43.3 grains and work our way up to 44.5 grains. So we basically followed Hornady's load data for this. We're going to use an overall length of 2.80. These hit the lands of my rifle at about 2.820. And again, we're using Hornady's overall length. So last time we shot the Creedmoor, we got into some pressure issues. Hopefully you don't see any of those today. But let's get out on the range and let's see how they shoot. Alrighty, so we're out here on the range. This is my 24-inch Savage 110 Tactical, chambered in 6.5 Creedmoor, mounted in an MDT XRS chassis with an Athlon 6-24 optic. Target is at 100 yards. We're using the 140 grain Hornady bowtail hollow point with Hogdgon Superformance. We're getting velocity through our Labradar. The gun is cool. Haven't shot it since we blew that primer the last time we shot this gun. The orange circles on that target are 1 inch. Nice day, probably about 75 degrees, nice and sunny, no wind to speak of. So hopefully it's a good day to shoot some good groups. Alrighty, so let's go ahead and get started and let's see how these will shoot. Alright, so after a close inspection of our brass, everything looks fine. Alright, so for whatever reason, that first velocity number was much higher than that second one. And now we lost way low. But our velocity was kind of consistent with the one before that. Alright, so let's see our average here. I know our SD was all over the place. Alright, so that one we were looking at an average of 2687 with a standard deviation of 35.7. That first shot was way up at 2728. The other two were pretty much the same down at the 2660. Alright, let's move on up. Alright, so that one looks to be a pretty good group. Looks like a really good group, actually. Let's see what our velocity looks like. Looked like a little bit more consistent there. Alright, yeah, so that one we were looking at 2694 feet per second with an SD of 6.3. So, big improvement there. Let's go ahead and move on up. Now, Hornady listed a max velocity of 2800. We're 100 feet per second off of that, so we should be okay. Brass looks fine. Should be okay as far as that goes. Alright, another really good group. Velocity looked really consistent there too. Let's check out what that velocity numbers were. Alright, so that one we were 2710 average with a 7.7 SD. Good looking groups, good looking velocity so far. The barrel's a little warm, but it's not too bad. We're still well below Hornady's max velocity. So we're going to go ahead and shoot these last three, see how they group. Alright, so we got a big jump in our velocity there. We're still below Hornady's predicted max. The brass looks fine. We're going to go ahead and shoot this next one. We did have a point of impact shift as well. A little bit down. Not quite as high. Alright, so it did group with them. However, that one the velocity dropped way down to 2710. So velocity all over the place with these loads as well. So group looks okay. Alright, so our average on that one was 2741 with an SD of 30. So kind of some interesting results here. We had some really good groups. And we had some loads with some good SDs, and then we had some decent groups with some really poor SDs. So let's get it back to the bench and let's check out that target. All right, so taking a look at the target today, the first load at 43.3 range, shot 2687 feet per second, 35.7 SD, and a 0.95 inch group. Moving on to the next load at 43.7 grains, we shot 2694 feet per second, 6.3 SD, and a 0.1 inch group. Pretty much a one-shot group. All three bullets pretty much landed in the same hole. Moving on to 44.1 grains, we shot 2710 feet per second, an SD of 7.7, and a 0.26 inch group. Another good group. Moving on to our top load at 44.5 grains, we shot 2741 feet per second. SD jumped up to 30.1, but group size stayed pretty good at 0.47. So overall, really happy with the numbers here. Not really sure what's going on with those high SDs with the first and last load, but overall can't complain about two groups under 0.3 with SDs under 10. Now these are three-shot groups, we'd have to come back and confirm them with more loads, but they look like a good place to start. Now taking a look at our brass, there's nothing to see here. The brass really looks pretty good. No real shiny spots, no injector marks. Primers look okay, and this is good to see after the last video when we blew that primer. So based on what we see here, we might explore the range between 43.7 and 44.1. With those good SD numbers and excellent groups, we might have a shooter. And I did go ahead and join the Patreon, so I'll list my Patreon here too if you guys want to support. I think we're going to start posting some content on there as well. It'll just be some extra pictures and behind the scenes kind of stuff. No videos over there. But thank you guys for watching, and we'll see you next time.